Hi, Steve.
Hey there, how are you?
Terrific. How are you?
Good.
Oh, good to finally be able to do this together. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was nice. Busy weekend for us.
Well, you had a pretty exciting, what day was it?
Yeah, last Wednesday, and then we had for my
Wednesday.
daughter's graduation, and then we had a party for Saturday night. So it was busy. It's been a busy week.
The weather good?
Yeah, it was nice. It really
Oh,
was. We were worried about it storming, but we didn't have any storms. It was good.
excellent. Yeah, I had my fingers crossed for you because it's this time of year, you can never tell what it's going to do. It just keeps going back and forth trying to figure it out to be summer.
Right, right. What part of the
Consistent.
country are you in?
Yeah. And on the call here with us is George, my colleague, our co-founder, Grace.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hi. This is this Steve.
Yes, it is.
Nice to meet you, Steve. Great
Nice to
Reese.
meet you.
And after speaking with Eb the first time, and I guess Eb, Steve, I guess Eb is Ebenezer, right? Is that his real name?
No, it's Edward
It's Edward.
Seymour, but he goes by Eb.
Yeah, that was what confused me. I thought, boy, this is a true Ebenezer. Okay, so it's Ed. But he asked Steve and I to talk together and do this little introduction. So I'm grateful that after Steve got his daughter all graduated and everything, he was able to do this today. I guess we're just going to jump into this for the sake of time, Steve. So
Sure.
we don't want to take more than we asked, but we'd like to take a little more if you have questions and whatnot. Do you want to just give us a quick background on how you and Eb are connected? And you've been working there for a number of years, and I know you're his go-to guy. Can you just share with us what your background in technology is and operations?
Yeah. So I've been working with Eb a little over 3 years now, I guess, and I'm Chief Operating Officer. So run the operations side of things, which includes some of the technology as well. And so Eb asked me to connect with you guys on this, and I know Pamela reached out to Eb, and he asked me to connect. And so I've got a little bit of background in technology. I was an IT director for a number of years for a large healthcare organization in the Carolinas. And that's kind of my trainings, computer science and biomedical engineering, and started out in that field and worked in that field for about 8 years or so, and then kind of transitioned away from the IT field, but still heavily involved with technology.
So while you were at this medical system, this healthcare in the Carolinas, that was probably a good 10 years ago, right?
Oh yeah, more than that. Yeah, it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
So that's when cybersecurity was not what it is or cyber criminal activity wasn't quite as intense.
Oh yeah, and I stay on top of that as well now. I mean, I still stay on top of that, and we have cyber liability policies, and I deal with all the risk management, and I've had a few of those cases, and so I stay up on technology. I'm not an IT. I'm not just one hat I wear now, and we do have an IT outsource that we use, so they're more hands-on.
Uh-huh.
I'm fairly up with it. Not completely, but I have I do have a little bit of a background.
Okay, very good. These people that you outsource, are they a managed services provider?
Yeah, we're a small company. I mean, we do a lot of volume in terms of transactions, but in terms of actual size of the company, we're a relatively small company. probably 30 employees. The rest of we have 800 plus state brokers who are actually independent contractors.
So I guess the thing I was trying to understand, because you actually are Wilkinson ERA Franchise Systems, and that's where those 800 brokers come in, right? It's a franchise?
Yeah, we're a franchisee of the ERA franchise, which is part of Realogy.
Hold on for just a second. Greg, is that,
What?
I think, are we hearing a dog?
You are not hearing a dog. I do not have a dog.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's George. Okay. I was trying, so you're one of the franchisees, Steve?
Correct.
Okay. So when I looked up Wilkinson ERA, is this information right that's on the screen right here, that you've got about 11 locations?
Yeah, yep, that's correct. It's 10
Yeah.
now, I believe, but yes, that's correct.
And is that 1.5 billion right in 2018?
Yeah, that's commissions total. That's sales volume, or not commissions, but total sales volume.
That's great for 30 people. And
residential real estate. Yeah.
okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that the data that we were understanding about you was accurate, because you never know for sure, if your resources or your sources for information are accurate. But
that's accurate, but a little deceptive, because like I said, that's actual sales volume. If you sell a $300,000 house, you're looking at, we're making a small percentage gross commission off of those sales. And then we're a transaction-based company, so we give most all of our commissions back to our agents and keep a small portion of that.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. So
Let me ask you a quick question. Do your agent pay like a fee for their desk, for the marketing, for the advertisement, stuff like that?
Correct.
Okay.
They pay a month.
I understand the business model. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
pay a monthly gas fee plus a small transaction fee each time they sell something.
okay. Well, let's just let me show you just 2 slides, and then I think we just need to talk about your thoughts about cybersecurity.
Yeah, I really would like, I'm limited on time. I really would like to hear Steve's thoughts on cybersecurity, because that's why I would like to hear it. You're not the typical company. We walk into a typical company, they have, 300 employees, 200 employees, 500 employees, 80 employees. It doesn't matter. 40 employees. They're really concerned with protecting their data and their stuff. So most of your solutions, I'm assuming, are in the cloud, probably supported by Wilkinson, the corporate. Is that accurate?
Yeah, most of our third-party cloud-based systems, none of them are self-developed. They either come from Realogy, which is
Right.
a publicly traded company.
Yep.
Probably has 1 in 4 transactions in the U.S. residential real estate.
Yep.
And we do everything's cloud-based. Yes, we use Google Suites for our email. We do kind of, in terms of, sorry, I'm getting another call coming in here.
Right.
Yeah.
So you probably have one small business server, or you guys using?
We have no servers.
So where are you storing your local documents? Just curious. 'Cause I'm sure there's some letterhead, some local stuff, some real estate transactions, some other stuff that isn't part of Realogy or a third party.
Yeah, we keep that in Dotloop. So it's owned by Zillow Group, and it's a transaction management platform.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Just
Tell me a little bit about you guys. Hopefully you can, I got on this call as a courtesy to kind of understand what you're offering and what you do. So
go ahead, Pam. Thank you.
So our background is Greg and Mike, brothers, founded this company with an MSP initially. And after doing that for a couple of decades and having a very successful, loyal client following, wanted to cyber secure them. So, because they wanted to make sure that their own clients were protected from all the cyber criminal activity, and it was just starting to come on big back then, a couple decades ago. And so they went into healthcare, which is the most stringent of compliances, HIPAA and the security around all the confidential information that healthcare has to safeguard, and bought a chain of hospitals, rural hospitals, and improved the way those are operated and improved the technology, basically optimized technology so that not only was it easier to document and track HIPAA compliance, but cybersecurity was also uppermost in what they did for those hospitals. They sold the hospitals since, but have decided to leverage, because if you can meet HIPAA compliance, you can do any industry, since it's the most stringent. And so we've leveraged all of that know-how and experience, and the fact that they invested in their own SOC with a cutting-edge platform, one of the best out there. And that is what our DataGuard focus and interest is. So there's three companies: Reboot, the MSP; HIPAAGuard, which is just medical and healthcare compliance; and then DataGuard, which is all industries in cybersecurity focus. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. These are questions that we suggest that every management team discusses. And I'm sure you and Eb have had some conversations about this. You know, how many days could you afford for it to be off the grid? How much would your CFO write a check for if you were ransom? How should you be prioritizing data and operational risk security? And are there any compliances that would take you down if in fact you got breached, that needed to be, you know, kept up with, and if you didn't have access to your data, you weren't online, you wouldn't be able to do it? Have you had these conversations?
We have, yes. And like I said, most of our risk is with a third party, which they're, you know, we did have a, several years ago, our accounting software package, which is hosted, you know, they actually use a client server kind of Citrix-based system, and they were hacked, and we did go through a ransomware issue, or they did, but it certainly affected us. So that was one case where, you know, like I said, most of our stuff is outsourced either to Google or Realogy, who they're pretty strong with in terms of keeping, you know, things secure. But this third-party accounting package did get breached, and, you know, we were offline for a couple of months. Really, it was a pretty tough period. But again, Realogy kind of controls that, and controls that they actually, you know, our franchisor actually intervened, and because this third party actually is being used across the country at many different brokerages, and they intervened to ensure that proper steps were taken to, you know, to remedy the holes and the issues that were there that caused the problem in the first place.
What is the name of that software? Could you share that with us?
I prefer not to.
Okay, that's fair. I know that you play a part in, or you at least have a say in some of the things that your franchisor is doing for you because of your position in the franchise. You know, third in the nation is no small thing.
Right.
So, I mean, am I assuming that correctly?
Sure, certainly we have input on that. Yes.
Okay. We will probably want to be able to, you know, if you like what you see here, we would love to be able to have a meeting with you and whoever is in charge of the IT at the headquarters, at the franchisor, because if I'm not mistaken, you're probably being charged, like Greg was talking about, to his point, some fee for all the services the franchisor provides you. And that has to be part of that. So.
Correct.
Okay. All right, good. I'm going to jump this real quick because one of the things that's a buzzword out there, and I'm not sure if you've read about this, but it's called risk supplier management. Making sure that none of the data that you're in charge of or that runs through your office is going to be compromising your vendors, not just your customers, but your vendors and partners, anyone you interact with, and that they won't jeopardize you. And so the bar has been raised for every company to be able to prove that they're doing everything they can to heighten their security so they don't compromise each other's data. Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's been pressure put on by insurance companies, by boards of directors, by investors and shareholders. They want to know that they won't be compromised, that their company won't be compromised, and their company won't compromise others.
Right.
So one of the things that we're big on is making sure that that claim can be made and it's valid, by the companies that we're protecting and securing data for. So it's an important piece. And in your case, besides the data that you're securing of your people who buy and sell through you, who else do you interact with that might jeopardize your data and vice versa? Would it be the title companies, and trying to think of who else might be?
Yeah, attorneys, potentially our closing attorneys. We own our own title company, title agency.
Oh, wow. So you can't blame it on them. It would be you.
Well, they're doing we're in North Carolina. It's a attorney closing state, so you do have to have an attorney to close the transactions.
Got it.
So yeah, I would say probably number one is attorneys, and title companies. There's some, usually the mortgage companies, they're working directly with the client, typically in receiving sensitive documents. They've got their system set up, so we encourage our agents to stay out of that loop, especially with the attorneys as well, and not to be the intermediary for passing information, including wiring instructions and anything like that, that's directly between the closing attorney and their client.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the attorneys is number one on your list. As well as we do, that 95% of breach happens inadvertently by unaware, untrained employees. So you said you're about 30 people in your main office there.
Right.
And unfortunately, that is how a lot of breach occurs. Yes. It's why we put such focus on a really robust training program. It's also why we know that because, formerly the static type of software, that antivirus software that worked, that is what everyone used because it did work. But now it takes more of a dynamic approach, which is this behavioral detection that artificial intelligence enables. And so these are ahead of you on this slide right now are 5 key parts of our offering that we feel if those things are in place, we can protect you and your data and operations. You would not be down 2 months if we were helping ERA. If we were protecting and safeguarding the data and operations for ERA, the whole franchise, you would never be down 2 months, I can assure you.
We would have to be protecting our every partner that we had, because like I said, this is like this is a completely separate third party.
Understood. But what artificial intelligence allows, because you're monitoring data 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you're able to see patterns of behavior of how each of those endpoints, and we consider an endpoint a laptop, a desktop, or a server, how each one of those endpoints are being utilized. And so we can see a breach coming before it actually happens and stop it in its tracks. And that is what artificial intelligence enables when you're monitoring like we do. So, I mean, I think that is the really big takeaway from this short introduction is you can't even fight cybercrime today. Don't even think about doing it without a 24-hour SOC because there's no way to catch it. The cyber criminals have gotten so advanced that they can plant a virus or an infection and infest the network and implode it later, days, hours, days, weeks, sometimes months later. Backups don't do it. On and off-site backups are not enough. It's just really gotten ridiculous. They are so advanced. So we have to kind of meet them where they are, which is with the same kind of high-level technology that that's at the same level of the tactics and the tricks that they're using. Go ahead. You were going to say?
No, I just listening.
Okay. All right. Does that make sense that we're watching for behavior and not just the static approach, but more of a dynamic approach? So
yeah, that makes complete sense.
Okay. And the thing is, IT people, whether they're an MSP, like our reboot company is an MSP, and they don't do cybersecurity. DataGuard's a separate company, and it does data security or cybersecurity. And it's because it requires two different skill sets, different tools, different experience. We have cyber career specialists working at DataGuard. We have IT techie, tech savvy, fellows working with the MSP that know how to patch, run patches and make sure that everything's up to date and that the hardware and the software are working the way they're supposed to, but they're not skilled and trained in how to detect a cyber breach coming down the pike. So it's two completely different worlds. This third point of assessments, we really want every company's should we call it cybersecurity maturity level and performance to be raised because of our collaboration with them. And so we're doing assessments sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly. It has to do a little bit with how your company's set up. But those assessments help us create a blueprint, basically, that increases that performance and that awareness. And we do these assessments regularly because, again, everything changes, on an ongoing basis in the organization. So we have to keep up with that. Sometimes it's people that are switching roles and moving around, somebody new that comes. It can be a change in your product, how your marketing approach and what your focus on and what your selling is. It can be all kinds of things that will impact the awareness of the people that are trying to use technology to their advantage. So we do these continual assessments for that reason. And then the training program is basically designed so that you have a human firewall by the time we're, by the time we've trained your people for a good year, everyone knows what not to click on. And they also are kind of becoming familiar with what to watch for. And that right there saves a lot of trouble. A lot of problems for the company. We treat that training as the company's the beneficiary of their people knowing how to act online and what to watch for. But it's also an employee benefit to the employees because what they learn on your watch will also be a benefit to them outside the office. So it's it's a win-win.
Right.
And we work with HR people to make that clear that that's one of the company benefits they get because they're getting this cyber awareness training. And then policies and procedures. You said you have those. You have some of those in place. Yes.
Do. Yeah.
Super. Yeah, that's helpful. If ever a claim came that you actually had to use your cyber security insurance and make a claim, you need to be able to document that you had policies and procedures in place and that you were following those. That's one of the things too that comes out of assessments are these ongoing reports that can document, and we can stand behind the fact that you have done everything you could. So that helps. It can reduce your cyber insurance premiums, but it also will help you if you ever really have to make a claim. The other thing that's very interesting, and I'm going to throw this out there because it's true, the platform that's part of our solution is so good, and they believe so much in their own ability to stop a breach before it ever caused any company havoc, because before it wreaked any havoc and brought you down operationally, is that they insure every endpoint up to $1 million, or total of $1 million, $1,000 an endpoint. So there's literally insurance built into our package, and that's got to be a pretty secure company platform to believe that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, because they simply don't have breaches of any consequence. They're able to stop, and we are able, with that technology and with the people we hire that are true cyber career specialists, we're able to mitigate any problems that could otherwise have happened. So that is our package, or those 5 points, and we our pricing. We're not going to talk price today, but that's a deeper dive. But it's a unique model because it's a specific price per endpoint, and that includes everything. It is a comprehensive price, and it's a fair price. So we have tried to, Greg and Mike haven't tried, they actually have achieved it. They've decided to price something everyone needs fairly enough that everyone can afford it. That it's kind of a no-brainer at the end of the day. So what questions come to, I guess I really want to know what keeps you up at night. That's probably what we should end on, is what you were kind to take this meeting. I know Ed was enthusiastic after I spoke with him. He says, talk to Steve. What is the biggest concern for you? You mentioned attorneys would be your biggest, in this risk management piece would probably
the attorneys, and then our independent contractors. I mean, it's always the challenge there of how much, because as an independent contractor, they are required to bring their own tools to the business, their laptops, their email address. They don't use our corporate email addresses for the most part. If you know the real estate industry, they are truly independent contractors, and yes, they are part of our brokerage. But they also like to keep somewhat of their own independence.
All about it. My sister's a realtor.
Yeah, so that's been a little bit of a challenge, where to draw that line. So, where I've chosen to, hey, these are our requirements. You have to have, malware, antivirus, your email account has to have 2-factor authentication. These are requirements for you to be part, that's the policy and procedure. So we put more of the onus on them in some respects versus giving them the tools, giving them an email account. We just don't have the budget to be able to provide all those resources to all the devices that they're using for 900 agents. So it's what we've done is kind of decide to draw that line on the independent contractor agreement and have them bring those tools, to the business. Now, trying to keep them compliant and do that is probably the one thing that would keep me up at night.
Good to know.
It's kind of a risk management thing, and then you've got the cyber liability policy riding on top of that. Mm-hmm. I'm not as worried about our internal staff. We can train them. They know, again, I'm sure we could do a better job, but it's a lot easier to control 30 people and educate them on
900 agents.
And 900 agents that are coming and going with constant churn weekly. You have agents drop off, you have agents onboarded. So that's the one thing, and just in terms of limiting our liability and making sure the independent contractor understands their liability and their accountability for bringing the right equipment to their trade.
Have you heard that saying about it? When you're trying to raise a teenager and you lean on your brother or sister, their aunt or uncle, or some other person they respect to say the same thing you did, but it sounds different coming from that other adult.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what we do when we do the training piece. So in other words, you've done so many things right, Steve. I can hear it. And it doesn't hurt a thing to have somebody mimic or replicate what you've done and then put it in some interesting online, really short, sweet, but hit the nail on the head points to teach them, this is why Steve told us to do this. Oh, this makes sense. Yeah, we heard about this before. So right. We would make you look good, but we'd be that second parent or that second adult saying the same thing, but in a way they could probably, we just drive it home. And then you would have documentation from us that tracks that they all passed the test, that they get it, they've embraced it, they've committed to it. And that goes in their file with HR, that they've been trained and that they get it, that they've accepted that this is an important part. But yeah. I guess when I'm going back to the services you provide them, if you could know that we were watching every endpoint for a ridiculously fair amount of money. It might not be $1, but it probably wouldn't be 100. If it fell into some reasonable small amount, and either the franchise decides to pay it because it is so small, it replaces what you're already paying for some of the tools that you use now to protect, quote unquote, protect, even though it's not this high level protection that we're talking about. Would you feel that was worth it? If it was somewhere between $1 and $30, would you feel like that would be worth the never having to worry and always being able to mitigate a breach?
Yeah, I mean, if it was between $1 and we're talking the lower end of that. $1 and $30 is a huge range.
Pretty span. Yeah, it is.
What I'm really thinking, I don't know if you guys do this through like a virtual type firewall where all the traffic's going through. I don't know the details of how that would work, but it sounds like to me it'd be better Realogy or someone at the franchisor, at the top of the food chain here is the one that you should talk to have a comprehensive offering that would cover, there would be value add to all brokerages. So Realogy, it's Realogy at the top, and then they have brands, ERA, we're under ERA, right? So you've got ERA, you've got Century 21, you've got all these different Coldwell Banker, you've got all these different brands that fall under Realogy.
Right.
So, I mean, if you really wanted to look
ideally,
at it,
ideally,
if you wanted to look at it in a very comprehensive way, it should be something that that can be provided, probably a cost, perhaps. We would have to pass the cost on to the agent, most likely. It's not something we're going to be able to absorb. I mean, we don't even pay, like I said, for an email address, because that would be cost prohibitive, times 900 email addresses, plus just the maintenance of that. So that's kind of gets back to where I'm telling you, we've kind of divided that line on what we do and what the agent should be bringing to the table. But certainly if it was in the dollar range, $1 to $2, I mean, I think we pay, even dotloop, which is our transaction management platform, which is highly secure, owned by Zillow Group. That's our big investment for the agent. We do cover that cost, and that's out of our pocket. That's not out of the franchise, or they do not provide that. We pay that. But that's where all the confidential information is, where all the offers are, where all the, that's the one system that is, that we do invest in, that we do pay for from our level. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So I hear you. If it was a reasonable price, here's the thing, each one of those agents has a responsibility to ERA and to themselves and to their customers.
Right.
Whether it's buyer or seller, they need to protect that data. And as that becomes increasingly important, I think they will also have a little bit of a headache that would go away if they knew that they were out of pocket $20 a month or something, and they never had to worry about being down. Did anybody do a calculation those 2 months you were down with that one ransom attack of how much it cost a realtor? How much did they lose in the 2 months they were offline or not able to work?
Oh yeah,
efficient?
they were not offline. Our accounting department was offline. We had to do things manually. It just added a lot of work to the accounting department to process everything. We were still able to process everything the way we would normally do it and then go back and enter it. So it just was a time sink and a cost of labor. Yeah, but and I don't know if in that scenario, I'm still not understanding, because how that would have been prevented. The breach didn't occur through us. It occurred through another party interacting with this third party. So I'm not sure how that would have been prevented through your solution.
But each endpoint, see, every endpoint has our software deployed on it. And a lot of people think they're protected.
Yeah, but you're not protecting our endpoints of a third parties besides, okay, yes, everybody within our organization, say, for example, that you were protecting, but they have thousands of customers outside of us.
Well, I see what you're saying. Their customers could have maybe sent them an infected file or whatever. But
yeah,
when they
a breach, that's how it happened. There was a password breach.
But we would see that. This is what I'm trying to explain. We would see that. The artificial intelligence, behavioral detection sees what's happening when it's happening. And so that is how it would protect them, is with DataGuard, with DG365 on every endpoint, then we would see those things happening and stop it before.
You're not on every endpoint. You're on Wilkinson's endpoints. So
but if the realtor said they would pay for it, I'm sorry, I thought you would, if they said they wanted to be a part of that security and they were willing to pay, whatever.
Yeah, but the third party, the accounting software, let's call it ABC Accounting. ABC Accounting has Wilkinson ERA as a client and 1,000 other brokerages across the country.
Yeah.
So you're covering the endpoints of us interacting with that third party, but you're not covering the other 999 endpoints that are interacting with that platform.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
We would have to work in collaboration with them.
Right. And they've, like I said, they went through a whole certification process to get back up and online, and they've met a lot of those requirements now. But that's a good example of, third party probably keeps me up at night sometimes, because we do rely on the third parties to provide the security that they need.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so at this point, we would be talking about if in fact it had your interest and it was the pricing was really reasonable. Does it sound like something that you could use for your 30, for at least for your company, your franchise? I'm thinking of being a thought leader, because you would if you engaged us and.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
couldn't tell you that. In theory, it sounds great, but I haven't done any due diligence on your company. This was just a 15-minute introductory call, but absolutely, if in theory, something like that would certainly be a great benefit. But again, I've done no due diligence. I was, we just had this initial 15-minute call.
I didn't expect you to before today.
Yeah,
this was hopefully to whet your appetite so that we then could do a second meeting, which would be a little deeper dive. So if you're up for it, and we're all sitting here, George, I know you're quiet because it's been me and Steve back and forth ping ponging, but could we look at calendars and see when we might have that second 30 minutes together, and
I
then we
want to do a little, yeah, I'd want to do a little due diligence first before I commit to another meeting.
Okay. Would you, I'll send you a follow-up email if that's all right, that has some things in it to reference as part of your, maybe some of the research you want to do. I'll send some highlights.
Okay, that sounds good. Your data guard's not, is it any, it has nothing to do with the Oracle data guard. I've heard of Oracle data guard, but this is
No.
not related.
No, this is Data-Guard 365.
Okay, gotcha.
So, all right, well, what I would like to, I understand you want to do your research first, so I'll send you something, and then can I reach back out here in about 10 days and see if we can't find a second date and time if you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Great. We would like to talk to you about that, and then if we did do that and you went ahead and if this ended up being positive for you, we could then go together potentially to ABC or to Realogy, and you would definitely be the thought leaders moving that direction to them with us. We do have a good price point, and we've done pretty big companies across the nation, so I think you'll like what you see. You should do your research.
Okay, that sounds great.
Super.
I was pitched SolarWinds a few years ago. I'm glad I didn't go with them after the.
Oh. You are funny. Yeah, it's interesting. The platform we use did a special thing, kind of a research paper after the fact with the SolarWinds breach. And it turns out that any of the companies that had our platform in place when the SolarWinds breach occurred, the criminals backed away from it like 90 because they would get caught.
Gotcha.
They knew that our platform would catch them and they would not be able to penetrate it. And so anyone that had our platform was safe as can be.
Cool.
So that was a nice little.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I might send you the link on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was a big breach. Oh my gosh. And then Colonial, and now JBS. It's just, it doesn't stop, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't.
All right. Well, we will. Well, the other thing I was going to say is when somebody joins us, we provide a little statement that they can put on their homepage website that claims that they have done everything they can to heighten their cybersecurity, and it speaks to that risk supplier management piece. So that's kind of nice to have, because I've checked out your website. It's beautiful. You guys have really got it going on, and it would be nice to be able to add that little piece. So,
gotcha.
I will send you things to look at. I didn't mean to not go live on this one, so you can see the whites of my eyes. Hello. But everybody was hiding. Everybody had their symbol up there. So I usually do these meetings live, but I thought I would join the icon group today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. We'll talk in 10 days, but you can watch for an email from me here shortly.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
You bet. George, is there anything you want to throw in here at the end?
Nice to meet you as well.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.